Hi
Okay,
there.
hang on. Meeting is being recorded. Yes.
Yes, you happy to be
Hello.
recorded?
Yes, I'm very happy to be recorded,
Excellent.
Yana.
Hello, Alex. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, you too. Make yourself at
And
home.
to anyone else that's listening or watching, welcome to another episode of Uniquely You with Yana, where we explore everyday people to help you discover more about yourself. So today we have creative director of Made Adelaide, Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having
And
me.
I would love to be wearing my blue light glasses with you, but unfortunately I have a terrible glare, so I'm going to leave you to that one today.
Yeah, thanks for introducing my disability, which is that I've been looking at screens too much. The glare affects my eyes,
I
and I have
think
these
that is a
beautiful,
problem for everyone these days looking at screens too much.
yeah, these rose-tinted glasses genuinely make a difference. So
Well, that's nice. You see life through rose-colored glasses every day.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And I think it does, it changes everything. Everything's better.
I personally
Even,
find I get less headaches when I wear them.
that's what they're meant for,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah. And
Does it
yeah.
affect colors? Like if you're editing a video and you've got the blue
Oh,
light glasses
yeah.
on?
Yeah, it does. But I don't
Yeah.
do the color grade until last. And
Okay.
so, and then I'll take the glasses off and then, I'll, and, and then I'm going to take a more deliberate look at the color. And in a way, and I've just been editing, I've only recently worn these glasses and recently editing, I'm like, it's actually good because now it stops me from being distracted by, inconsistent coloring or something like that, because I know that I can't, while wearing these, realistically start working on that. So I'm like, okay, ignore that part. That's last. Don't waste your time. Focus on, you know, the methodical process of editing, which is what you got to do when you're trying to do it efficiently
Yeah,
and on a budget.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because normally, males in general have an easier time focusing on specific things, whereas females are always thinking about a gazillion things at once. So I find it really hard not to multitask, even though I'm not that successful at it. But I'm constantly
Yeah.
thinking of five things I want to be doing at the same time.
Is it multitasking or untasking?
Probably multi-untasking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are here to have a chat about your business, which is Made Adelaide.
That's such a interesting concept.
So
Um,
how did you come up with the name to start with?
yeah, look, it's first of all, it's really spun out to be put on the spot like this. You know, um, oh yeah, there you go. Looking at my website, I spun out. Made Adelaide. It started out as like literally, I came up with the name within 20 minutes, and the purpose of it was purely because I was wanted to develop a show. I was actually a friend of mine at the time, Sam Wright, was developing. He had this music festival that he was doing in Adelaide called the Music Festival, and I just
Oh,
wanted to
cool.
help him out with some promotional content for his social channels. And so we had this. So I'm like, okay, I'll interview him, and I had this crazy idea. I thought, well, I'll interview him, but I'll make it like really exciting. I brought on a um, a host, Rebro, who sat in the back of the car, and I got someone else to shoot it, and I think I was driving. And we basically the interview started at the bottom of a car parking lot, and we pretended that we basically kidnapped Sam Wright, and he had to tell us why people should come to his festival, or else, or else. And meanwhile, I'm driving up this car park, which is like, it's like the corner car park on Rundle Road, corner Rundle Road and Rundle Street, cross the road from Hungry Jack's. That car park. We're spiraling up. I'm like flooring it. I've got, yeah, two people in the back. Sam Wright's being interviewed by Reb. I've got a shooter hanging over the pedestrians, the co-pilot seat with a camera trying to keep the shot going. And basically the interview had to last only as long as many floors of car park we had left until we got to the top.
Ah,
And so it was sort of, it was a bit silly and fun. And it was just a way to create a lot of, I don't know, silliness, a new point of view in an interview. And then when I was in the edit, I just had to quickly come up with a name. I'm like, well, what am I? I'm interviewing. I'm like, I got to come up with some sort of magazine name. And I thought, Made Adelaide, because because we're interviewing the people who made Adelaide, the movers and shakers who made Adelaide, and it's kind of got that kind of legacy um, um, post tense or past tense about it, because it was about celebrating, I guess, the people today who are making history, who are making doing great things that we will look back on and go, wow, that was amazing. It started off here and then it grew into something else. And so that's what made Adelaide started, because it was actually a show. I
A
interviewed
TV show?
a Facebook show.
Oh,
So
okay.
Facebook just hit video, and I thought, oh, this is a cool opportunity. Obviously, YouTube had already, gone off, had opened up, shot out the gate. This was, gosh, 20. No, I mean, it must have been 2012, um, 2013 maybe, and YouTube had already been around for about 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And then Facebook got video, and I thought, cool, I'll be on the ground floor. I'll start a channel, and the cool thing about it is, obviously, with Facebook, it's more of a local audience. So you're targeting, I was targeting my local community, the Adelaide metropolitan community, and celebrating all things Adelaide and all things and all the interesting people that have made really interesting things done. And I mean, um, you know, uh, uh, uh,
I like that idea
yeah,
that you called it Made Adelaide after the people that made Adelaide.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah,
awesome.
it's
So it
long story
started out as
short.
intending for it to be a Facebook show. And is that how it started, or you ended up taking
That's
it
correct. Yeah, it started
online?
as a show. It was always meant to be originally a show that ran on sponsorship, not unlike the podcast formula. And I spent a lot of time making phone calls and trying to, conjure up sponsorship. I drafted up sponsorship sheets, um, and pictures and blah blah blah. And after a very long grind, the best I got was 23 movie tickets, and I was like, well, that's cool. I'll just give them to the fans. And But what did happen is that sort of very very quickly, I the right people took notice of the show. People who had budgets to spend inside local government, and and kind of wanted to employ my, I guess, my video content skills to help them with their projects. And at the time, placemaking was a huge, was quite trendy and fashionable at the time. We had a very exciting time during Stephen Yarwood's mayorship in the city of Adelaide, and their placemaking initiatives where they activated laneways. They did a lot of renew Adelaide kind of initiatives, unlocking real estate that was sort of dormant through these initiatives, and activating laneways. Sorry, I said that, but also food trucks and all the rest of it. And then this was also going off into the other satellite councils, and it was just this was the 2010s, and it was going off, and so I guess it was the right time, right time. That whole idea of celebrating, makers, was very fashionable, and there was this sort of an incredible amount of energy for and support for people with next to no money trying out ideas, splashing ideas, kind of seeing what they can do. And
So your
and
aim was really to help them promote their idea?
yeah, I mean, I was living in the city at the time, and I, had video production skills. I went to film school years prior, and I just felt that, yeah, I wanted to get involved, and this was the way in which I could do it, because I knew how to, cut video together, and I
Ah,
knew
so you
how
actually
to,
went to
yeah,
film school. So
yeah,
that was your passion way before you started the business, and that was your interest, and you
yeah,
knew how to
yeah,
create and edit and all that kind of thing.
yeah. I went to film school in 07, 08, which was media arts production skills, or MAPS, and sadly, it kind of got sold off, and it doesn't even exist in name anymore. But the MAPS alumni, all those Mapsters out there will know, and we're a brotherhood or a sisterhood, and it's a great privilege to have been able to do the MAPS course. It's a has an amazing reputation in this town, and if you've got a MAPS, if you're lucky enough to have someone who went to MAPS film school on your crew, you're in good hands. You've got someone who's really committed, And so we say, we had some great inspirational lecturers and teachers along the way that helped us. Shout out to Lee Sutton and Peter Thurmer. Still to this day, your words of encouragement and discouragement linger in my mind.
Yeah, teachers and lecturers and facilitators and trainers, they can be quite influential. I saw a high school teacher a few years ago. He was a drum teacher and an audio tech teacher, and he was playing at a winery that I was at. And I went up to him and I said, "Oh, Mister," whatever his name was at the time. You're such an inspiration to me. Like I still remember all the things that you taught in class, and and there he was years later, like 20 something years later, still playing music. So
Yeah.
yeah, they can be quite influential.
Did he remember you?
I think so, but it's hard to know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he just smiled and nodded politely anyway, but yeah,
I
I
used,
remembered him.
yeah. Well, sincerely, for about 8 years, I used to, well, maybe 10 years, I had probably sincere PTSD from my lecturer. He was a very hard teacher. He wasn't as bad as that teacher in Whiplash, the film Whiplash, but he was pretty
Whiplash
hard.
felt like I was watching a documentary of when I went to uni and did
Oh,
jazz
really?
drums.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah. I
pretty
mean,
close.
as a drummer yourself, you would totally know,
Yeah.
right?
Not
Um,
quite as bad, but almost. Yeah.
Yeah, my lecturer made me cry one day. I mean, it was just, you're coming out the back of a chute. You're absolutely exhausted. You're mentally drained. You've spent a lot of your own private money, and then he just, and he'll just rip you to shreds for whatever. But that was kind of his way of trying to motivate, and it worked for me. It was the kind of style of motivation that I needed, I think, which is that I dare you to prove me wrong. You're rubbish. Prove me wrong. That's kind of was his style, and that's not for everyone, and it's probably not even it's definitely not you know whatever. People can have their own opinions about it, but I think that it's definitely what's needed to push you to get into an industry which is cutthroat, and it's not for wealth, and it's not for fame, and it's I mean, it can be for fame, but like
You really need to have some intrinsic motivation, don't you? Like you need to have your
absolutely.
why, you need to have something driving you because you're not going to have outside factors helping with that. You really need to
No
know why
one's
you're
going to
doing
help
it. And
you. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
yeah, go on.
backtracking a little, so
Sure.
you started your business. It was an online Facebook show. You ended up writing to sponsors to try and get some financial backing. We talked about your very first video, but when was the time where you decided I'm going to work for myself versus getting a day job, so to speak, and working for someone else? Like, how did that all come about?
Well, I always thought I would work for myself from a very early age, actually. So I think it's kind of been a kind of a, I don't know, like always been a burning desire to work for myself. There's always been a burning desire to have my own business, and you know, I've always had a huge fascination for entrepreneurs, self-made people. Um, I don't know whether this is relevant, but like famously, and my mum will tell the story a million times, but like, when I was 5, my best friend, this girl called Mercedes, we had this idea, it's like, oh, we're going to buy this shop and turn it into a fruit and veg shop, right? Always, and even when I was a kid, I'd always be playing shops. I loved playing shops. I loved like, having a pretend business. I'd always do lemonade stalls at the front. Like I've always been interested in, well, my mum goes, well, you've always been interested in money. And it's like, well, no, I've just always been interested in business. I don't know why. And realistically, I could have started a business in anything. It's just that I just so happened to have gone to film school and developed skills in a particular area that that became the area in which I started a business. And I always thought, well, I don't come from money. I've had to work for everything that I've got. I knew that starting a service-based business was probably the low-hanging fruit of starting a business. If you start a service-based business, your overheads are low. You can start working from home. You don't need to have a lot of upstart capital. You don't have to borrow. So starting a service-based business made sense. And then, and then having a hard look at, yeah. So that's what you want to do. Making that leap from a job to being self-employed, that's a whole different thing. And
I'd like to hear that story.
yeah, that's the hardest thing. And I kind of had this concept called the fifth day, um, that I sort of developed, and that was when I basically decided to go 4 days a week. So I was lucky enough to ask my, job at the time. It's like, right, I'm going to go 4 days a week. And my fifth day was a day that I still worked, but I worked for myself, developing my ideas. I always, for the first 6 months, it wasn't about making money. That fifth day was about developing my ideas, just complete, like writing down my ideas,
That's a
kind
great
of
idea.
systemizing and researching, even, testing those ideas. And so the first three episodes of Made Adelaide was sort of pre-produced in that fifth day, and then I took leave. I took 2 weeks off work and produced them on my leave, or shot them on my leave, and then edited them on the way out. And then that was kind of like a tester for me, and and so that kind of, I guess, really tickled my fancy. You kind of got the juices flowing, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. I really love this. Got, really nice, positive um, audience reviews. People engaging with the content, and that carries you a long way. That carries you more than money, really. When people appreciate what you do, that's the greatest thing of all, and that's ultimately what motivates me still to this day, really, like, is fear of disappointing, and the joy of pleasing. Ultimately, really, definitely not the money. Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's much the same with music. A lot of the time you don't get paid, but if people enjoy themselves and have a good night, and you know that you were part of making their day great, then that's a great intrinsic reward.
100%. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, you would know this, um, yourself. You would know this personally, deeply, and you are obviously a very talented drummer, and you've got this really cool cover band, which is, ultimately super popular in Adelaide.
Well, I don't know about
Um,
that,
name drop the Lady Beatles,
but
and um, and so I'm sure you can relate to this quite a bit. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So you did a bit of a trial run while you were still working your job, and you quite liked it, and you thought, yep, I could probably handle doing this full time. So, how did you decide that you're going to quit your job and start your own business?
yeah. Interesting. Well, kind
What
of
was the
two.
catalyst for that?
Yeah, kind of two things happened. One negative, one positive, actually. So I initially, before I quit my job. Okay, so I've given away the punchline. Um, I was working in partnership initially. It was just me and a friend who sort of started this video content agency, and it was a different idea, completely different idea. It was based around. It was called Cameo Tree, and it was based around, shooting videos for loved ones and families, and without getting into the concept. Anyway, we decided to enter a film competition. A film competition came up, a short film competition. It was basically just a competition to develop a 30-second ad for City of Charles Sturt. The prize was pretty good. It was 10 grand money. And we came up with this really cool idea and executed it really well, I would think. And we won. We actually won that competition. So that was a euphoric moment for me. It felt like, for me, that, okay, I actually do have something to give in this industry. I actually have something to offer here, and maybe this is a sign that I should pursue this a little bit more, and try and develop the skill a little bit more, and try and it gave me confidence in myself in that space. The
Yeah.
second the second thing that happened, is that I just had complete and utter burnout from my job. I, was just working a shitty job. It was a well-paying job. It allowed me to work and live in the city. But it was, I worked, believe it or not, in finance in a call center, and I was the union rep in that call center, and I was a pain in the ass for management, and I was, and they were just trying to manage me out. They were trying to fire me, and they made my life hell. And I had complete and utter burnout at one point, where I basically had a panic attack, and I had to quit. I just had to quit for my own health, actually. And fortunately, by that point in time, I had saved enough money. This job did allow me to save money, that I had enough runway to go, all right, well, I'm going to try and make this business work. I've got 12 months of living expenses. I'll just see what I can do. If I can make it, if I can, I kind of imagined I was in an airplane on a runway, and if I just, the engine's going, and there's a certain amount of runway, and my aim is just to get this plane off the ground before we run out of runway. And
It's also
yeah,
good that you gave yourself a time frame. You said, okay, I'm going to give it a red hot go for 12 months
I was
and see if I can
prepared
make
to,
it work.
I was
Yeah.
prepared to spend every cent of my savings for the idea.
I think that
Yeah,
seems to be the story with most people that are entrepreneurs or that start their own business is they just go all in. Because if you have
100%.
another choice, it's like you don't do something 100% because you've always got something else lingering. So it seems to be all eggs in one basket is the most successful way from what I've heard.
100%. Yeah, I had this mantra, which was always, if you want plan A to work, don't have a plan B. Just focus on plan A. And yeah, and so eventually, I basically I always tell people like I did 500 hours of free work, um, strategically. So I'd make a lot of content, which was, each episode was like 30 hours work, and I'd just made a whole heap of series of content. And it worked out to about 500 hours before I got my first paid job. And then just, I was very lucky. I built some great relationships. I mean, one of the most important things in business, especially in this game, is it's a relationship business, relationship based business. And I made some good, I made some great friends with some great individuals who had budgets and would use me a lot. And it was thanks to these individuals, Valley Morfitt, thank you very much. You really kind of helped me launch my career, and so a lot of luck in that respect. But yeah, it took me 8 months before I could break even, and I was no longer eating my savings, and I was just getting by. And then the rest is history, which is as what they say. Funnily enough, yeah, funnily enough, I've just been able to kind of keep leveraging on that and surviving somehow. Don't know how, but I take
Well,
my work very seriously.
it
So
almost sounds like you've made your own luck in a way by doing all the networking and producing good quality product. So it sounds like a lot of your business has come from word of mouth then.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just
Yeah.
referrals and other people seeing your
Yeah.
work and recommending you. And
Yeah.
so it's not so much hardcore marketing or AI or algorithms or
No
ads or,
SEO. No, none of that.
that kind of stuff.
No,
Just,
ironically, I work in the business of content, which is the idea of trying to generate, which is marketing, right? Trying to generate, a certain amount of hits, on viewers' eyes until they kind of, you know, funnel their way into your website, and then you squeeze them into some sort of capital gain. All of my all of my work has come through relationships, conversations, sometimes just conversations with, you might be at a networking event or like some sort of conference, and you might be talking to someone and you don't even know who you're talking to, but it's important to treat everyone that you have a conversation with sincere interest. One of my biggest big time clients, someone who I deeply valued for a long time until they left Adelaide. It was just a conversation at the end of a conference. I had no idea who I was talking to, and the next thing I know, they're like, "Hey, can you yeah, by the way, I run this massive innovation startup center, and we've got heaps of budget, and I need you." And you're like, "What?" And then
that's
the next thing you know,
awesome.
yeah. and next thing you know, you kind of yeah, you're working in the startup space. For a long time, I worked in the startup space. I've got um, and and I largely think a lot of that was serendipity because I was living in the city and I was amongst a lot of entrepreneurs. That was a great space to be in. But yeah,
And also, it would be
yeah,
great to be able to contribute to other people's success. I think that would be really rewarding. Like working with
yes,
startups and
yes,
knowing that you helped them get off the ground and um yeah, rather than not to say never, but always supporting bigger companies or corporations or government, entities. It's nice to help people that are doing the same thing as you. They're running their own business, they're being entrepreneurs, they're wanting to get their idea out there. So it's a kind of nice symbiosis, I think.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I can't. It always felt like that. I was very privileged to be hanging around like-minded individuals, and of course, this sort of, I've been a hustling, you know, struggling business forever, and it felt like I was amongst my people half the time when I was working with in these places. It was great.
That's great.
Um,
That makes work so much
yeah,
easier when you found your tribe and you can hang around like-minded people.
I always had
It's
the
not really work
idea
then.
that. Well, what do you mean?
Well, if you find people that you enjoy hanging around and you're doing something that gives you personal intrinsic value, then it's not hard work, is
Oh,
it? It's enjoyable.
um, I don't know. It's always hard work. It's always hard work. This job has always been hard work, and it's still hard work. I
So
can,
you were mentioning previously when we were chatting that the reason it might be difficult is because not only is it using your skills, your technical skills and your time, it takes
mm,
a lot of time, but also it demands your creativity. And having a
yeah,
combination of all those different things can be quite exhausting because you're using different types of resources all the time.
yeah, yeah. It's sort of, yeah. The creativity is always hard. It's always hard to be try and develop something new that answers the problem at hand, the brief at hand, whatever the objective is, in a creative way that at the end of the day, a lot of my content is corporate content. It's got a message. There's a message. There's an underlying marketing message. But I also try to embed a sincere, entertaining story in that, so that it is genuinely something that audiences will watch because and if they're so inclined, the message that's embedded in it, and if it relates to them, um, well, then they'll go and do the thing that the company wants them to do, the organization wants them to do. I have been privileged that majority of my work hasn't been corporate. I mean, one of my biggest clients is a corporate client, but it's kind of the kind of corporate. It's a large monopoly that kind of um, actually works in a space that's it's not unlike, an essential service. It's not like it's not too unlike firefighting or something like that. So it's kind of got a nice, what do you call it, heroes morality to it. So I don't mind working in that space. But a lot of the time I've been very lucky to work in, local government, with a lot of their community goals and community activation and community aspiration. And then in the startup space as well, that's about developing economic opportunities for people in Adelaide and careers and developing new industries like space tech and defense and all the rest of it. And so, yeah, I've been lucky I haven't had to sell my soul. And so that's good. Um, and
So
I
all of
can't,
your work
yeah.
is film?
Yeah, it's always been video. Although recently I've kind of pivoted a little bit. I'm now trying to get into the product photography space. We'll see how that goes. Early conversations show that it's a challenging space. It's definitely a space that's probably a lot easier to replace with AI tools as well. But I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I've recently moved to Gawler, what I like to call Barossa West, and I find the wine industry just uh, completely um, gorgeous. Basically, I just find it to be just this beautiful, romantic industrious, wealth generating industry that can't be offshored because you have to produce the wine where the grapes are pulled. So it's this excellent industry, and it's all about family story and that sort of that kind of romantic idea of provenance and this coming from the soil, and it's very Epicurean as well, which is what aligns with my personal kind of philosophy in life, which is I think where I draw a lot of my personal happiness from is just living an Epicurean life, which is freedom to think, friends, food, and the other F. I don't know. I can't remember. Whatever. Those you can fact check me in the comments section.
Is there a Epicurean lifestyle theme starting with F, is there?
It's meant to be starting. No, it's meant to be the four Fs, but it's a
Ah.
joke because obviously thought is a TH. So it's yeah. Was it freedom of thought, food, um, friends, and
Oh, so the four F's, Epicureanism,
yeah,
foundational teaching attributed to Epicurus. These four
yes,
principles, this is AI, by the way.
that's
These four
fine.
principles are designed to eliminate anxiety and achieve mental tranquility. Don't fear the gods. Uh, Epicurus taught that gods are blissful and detached from human affairs. They do not interfere with human life. Natural phenomena are not punishments, e.g., lightning. Don't fear death. Death is the end of sensation. Since we cease to exist when we die and nothing can harm us, death means nothing to us. What is good is
Mm.
easy to obtain. True pleasure comes from simple, natural desires like food, friendship, and peace of mind. I think that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
What is bad is easy to endure. Physical pain is temporary and outweighed by pleasure. Intense pain only lasts a short time. Chronic pain becomes manageable through mindset. Mental
Mm.
distress is eased by understanding that suffering is transient. I've never heard of that before. There we go.
Yeah.
Theory of life according to Epicurus.
Yes. So that combined with a bit of stoicism will go a long way. But yeah, I mean, the way I've sort of understood it is that it's about just enjoying the most humble of pleasures, well, the most primal of pleasures, which is company, good friends, good food, good
Simple
wine.
pleasures?
Yeah. Simple pleasures, exactly. And they're free ultimately. Um, and um, and that's that's
That's
partly
what the
my
Beatles
problem, I
said.
think.
The best things in life are free.
It's true.
Actually, that wasn't Beatles. That was someone else that did that originally, wasn't it? Ronnie?
Um, you're telling the
Not
story.
sure.
Yeah, not sure.
There's a song lyric for everything, I'm sure.
100%. And I will refrain from Googling that. I'm trying to stay away from the AI slop if I can.
Yeah, well,
Um,
when I say that's AI, I just mean that I looked it up on my internet browser and that's the first thing that came up. You know
Gemini
how it
came up.
gives you
Of
a
course.
AI
Yeah.
summary?
Yeah.
I don't use Google, but whatever
Look, I mean,
thing my internet
AI's
uses.
okay. AI, I mean, depends on you can choose how to use it any way you want. I mean, ideally, it is a better search engine. I like to call it conversational search, right? So it's a much easier search for information, and you can ultimately use it to assist you in understanding something, or you can use it to just do the thing for you and slowly, you know, completely atrophy your brain and the process. But um, so it's your choice. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I'm a bit pessimistic about the future, and once it becomes self-referential, it's just going to turn to this ooze of banality.
So you
And
don't use AI in your work?
I use it where it can be a productivity gain in terms of it's just formulaic stuff, process stuff. Um, yeah, I look, I've got to use it. Um, what's it called? The social, the communal trap or whatever it's called. I forget what someone introduced me to the other day. If I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. I'm going to be outcompeted because of the efficiencies, the productivities that comes out of it. And it is useful. It is helpful. It does actually help me learn things. It helps me learn things very quickly. I mean, gone are the days where you have to just, try and make sense of some weird abstract Reddit forum where someone asked a question 5 years ago, and you're like, okay, I got it. I've got this problem solved. You can, if you got a problem with your
Oh,
computer or the
my partner still
software.
goes to Reddit for everything. He solves everything with Reddit forums.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've never been a true Redditor or whatever, but it's like I like being able to solve problems as quickly as problems, so I can get back to what I actually really care about. Like nothing worse than being stuck with hardware issues or whatever, and you spend the whole day fixing that. I think those days are gone, thank God.
I
So
know that it has a place and it can be helpful, but I'm really torn about the concept of using AI in everyday life because I've heard that it chews quite a lot of water to cool down the data centers to run it, first of all. So we're wasting drinking quality water by using it so much. Also, I agree with you in the sense that I feel like the less we think for ourselves and the more we outsource to AI, our brains are just going to become schlop,
yeah,
because we're
yeah,
not actively using them. And
yeah. I mean,
also,
yeah,
you can replace you to an extent, you can replace knowledge with AI, but you can't replace creativity. So that's the missing part that kind of makes us human is the knowledge plus the creativity is that what makes us unique. So I kind of feel like AI is maybe half the puzzle, but also AI works on what we feed it, it seems. So if depending on the people that are using AI, it's only going on the information that we've given it type thing. So
yeah.
I
Look,
feel
it's
a bit weird
curious. I
about it.
mean, general artificial intelligence or AGI, the idea of these agents, you have these AI agents that go off and do things for you, and they're basically, like, human slaves for you, well, robot slaves, and they can go off and you give them a task and they go off and do things. It's curious whether they will, ex, you know, e express creativity. I mean, recently there was they developed a Reddit thread, I think it was called, God, I can't quite remember what it's called. And they, where they huddled together in their community and they even put up an ad saying humans for hire for
Was
jobs that
that
they
the
couldn't do.
one with just bots?
Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
bots. It
I
was
heard
like
about that, where they started a whole thread just with bots and no humans were allowed in.
yeah,
Apparently, within 24 hours, the bots had started their own religion. They'd
yes, that's
had
right.
started
Yeah,
advertising for humans to help them, and they were having conversations about all types of things. And yeah, they did quite a lot in 48 hours, which is a bit scary because, how much
yeah.
could they
Which
get done if left to their own devices?
I mean, that's right. And I think unfortunately, I think that does show a level of creativity. Um, I like to think that they're just complex algorithms and they don't actually have any impulse, any internal drive that isn't governed by a some sort of token system. Because the way that AI is governed at the moment, you know, some boffin behind the levers in the engineering room of Meta or Google or whatever has gone, okay, well, here's an incentive. We will give you more artificial tokens, and these tokens are good if you do X, Y, and Z. And so there's a human behind it. There's a human motivation behind the algorithms, and even when you talk to ChatGPT or whatever, ultimately it can do all this brilliant stuff, but it doesn't do it on its own. It needs to have a human go, I want you to do it. But then you got these agents which basically seem to almost be able to break the matrix, and we'll see where that goes. Yeah, it's fascinating, and I probably I'm not really. Yeah, I I have two minds about this, but it's coming, and get your house in order because who knows? We might have to go back to potato farming in order to growing food in your own backyard. I mean, and
Oh, I think
just
that's a good idea
because
regardless. Yeah.
you know if you can get rid of your debts and just try and go back to simple living.
Yeah.
Um, energy is going to be the bottleneck for AI, and so that'll be a curious thing. But in the process of that, maybe they invent a new energy source or a new way to create energy. Maybe figure out fusion power or something. So who knows? I really like the idea that there's a duality of everything. There's good and bad in everything, absolutely everything. And and that's just the nature of the universe. So yeah, lock in for the ride. But what gives me some hope on the creative side is that I think people genuinely prefer the human lens, right? I don't think anyone. Well, we know I mean, Joe Rogan's used this as an example, but like we have the best. We've got AI that can play chess like the best in the world, like can beat any human player. We could have, but no one's interested in watching a chess competition between AIs. They want to see the human spirit, the human power. They're interested in the story. They're interested in the human story. And I think that's where the room for creativity in art in all expressive arts, including music. We don't want to go to a concert and see, a bunch of robots playing instruments
Yeah, because
perfectly.
apparently people are using AI to create music
Yeah,
these days.
yeah, and who
So
cares for that? Who
do
cares for
you,
that?
well, I don't know, some
I
people,
mean, you might
not
listen
me.
to it, but you wouldn't go to a concert. And ultimately, I think in
You
this
can't
day and
relate to
age,
it.
yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that the peak experience of listening to music is when you go and see a live performance. I don't think you really you don't really experience the almost transcendent power of music until you're in a crowd of people all in unison, sort of experiencing the moment. And if it was and if if there's a couple of robots on stage or just a screen, playing Spotify, yeah, I mean, you're just not going to have that same feeling. You're not going to feel whatever spiritual thing there is there. There is something in the air, uh, and even on a more like relatable or a more local level, your local art gallery, or your cellar door that has art on the wall, or these events, you're going there to connect with other human beings, and the imperfection is the beauty in some ways too. um, what I really hate is that right now Google is like trying to fix all my emails. Like, no, this could be shorter, and this could be, and this is slightly grammatically incorrect. And have you tried saying it like this? And then, you know, assuming Gemini is making this kind of suggestion to everyone, well, there's not going to be an email in this world that isn't just perfect. And then if everything's perfect, then there's no personality in communication
Yeah.
anymore. And
Yeah,
so,
it kind of
and
takes
so,
the individual out. Although I did learn through work that you can cater AI's response to make it sound like you. So you can give it your previous communication and it
right,
writes in your style, so to speak. But yeah, I do agree that it's making things more generic rather than individual. And this whole
yeah,
podcast is all about
yeah,
being individuals, so and unique.
uniquely you,
Because we
yes,
are all unique, yes.
yeah,
So do you think
yeah.
that's why, talking of um, being emotive and storytelling, do you think that's why film works so well? Because it
It's
can tell
timeless.
stories and it can be emotive and it can make
Yeah.
that extra connection that images or, AI generated content can't.
Yeah. Um, yeah, interesting. I mean, like, obviously AI is getting to the point where it can produce 30-second clips, and that's pretty much what you need to do. You can create a whole film by just doing a series of these, short
I
scenes.
attempted to do a intro to this podcast myself using AI, and I personally thought it was quite creepy.
It's also not
The
as easy
result
as
that
people.
came out at the end, it was just like, it's something not right about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. I haven't found it that easy either. It's people who are putting stuff online are still working a lot of hours just to get the prompts right, just to get it to be consistent.
Yeah, you gotta know how to
Yeah.
prompt it, I guess.
And I've seen it done reasonably well. There's YouTubers I watch who, use generative AI to color in their story, and that's kind of cool. It sort of assists in the creative process, and maybe that makes the creativity better. So it can be an assistant to good storytelling. Yeah, it's fascinating. I still like. I just think that I think that it's. I think what we are always going to prefer the human connection, or knowing that it was crafted by someone who another individual like us, fully flawed, who is who has sacrificed in some way to make this happen. I mean, I've met a filmmaker, a local South Australian filmmaker who was touring. He basically sold his house and used all his money to make this feature film. And you think that kind of energy and sacrifice, you kind of feel that love. You kind of feel that energy into the product that they're making. And
Very true. It's like when a
yeah,
chef prepares food, or even I've found when I
or
prepare
coffee.
food or
Yeah.
coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're in a bad mood, that actually does go into what you're preparing.
Yeah.
And I've found that if I try and make a recipe I haven't made before, if I haven't had a great day, the recipe doesn't turn out. But if I approach cooking with enjoyment and joy, the food turns out way better. So
And
I think there's something to that.
there's something to that. And yeah, and you just made me think. I think because of that craving for that sincerity or that authenticity. I mean, even if AI, gets so good that it's not even there's no need to even employ actors or film crew or whatever, and it's just like just type it in. Like I could see a future where Netflix is like, oh, what do you want to watch tonight, honey? It's like, oh, let's watch a sci-fi film about a, 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 about an author who,
Yeah, true. You can
I
just
don't know,
give it the
whatever.
prompts and it will
And you just
create something.
exactly, and you just like
Yeah.
literally write a prompt, for your movie night, and bang, you've
Yeah.
got your own unique special film, and you share that film on a forum, and it's upvoted, downvoted, and you can watch other people's prompted films. I could probably see that happening 10, 15 years. But but then maybe what will become in fashion again is theater, actually, where you actually see people on stage again, and maybe that will
Yeah.
become the new, they'll call it IRLs. The kids will be all about genuine material experiences again, because I personally think that when something becomes so available and so cheap, it loses its value, and we won't value the things that we have abundantly free and cheap. We just won't value it. The things that we will seek that because they'll give us some form of not only social connection but a sense of personal status as well. And is the things that are more rare, and those things will be those human connection and those human experiences.
So
So maybe
speaking
I'll
of
so maybe I'll need
things,
to get into theatre at some
yeah,
point.
maybe. Speaking of things that are unique and rare, do you find that a challenging part of running your own business and selling your service is that some people might not see the value in something that is um, curated for them personally versus a product they can buy off the shelf, so to speak. Like, for example, when I was making snuffle mats for dogs, I found that people would say, I don't really want to pay $35 for your handmade snuffle mat that you've done in customized colors for me because I can go to Kmart or any other shop and buy one for $15 and it's the same size. But it's not customized colors, it's not handmade, it isn't made of durable, washable materials. It doesn't have as much material in it. The material quality isn't as good, but some people don't struggle with that, but some people do struggle with value and price and seeing the correlation. Have you found a way to be able to overcome that? Like if you're going for a tender with a local government, for example, and you've got a bigger company that can afford to maybe price you out of that tender, how do you sell your service as being more valuable?
Yeah, that generates value.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing I that's the hardest problem I have every time is how do I articulate the value that this quote gives you, the value that this production will give you, the return on investment. And I focus on it. I talk about it. It's all I really care about. I will even talk a client out of it if I don't think I can generate any return on investment. I could have a cynical approach to this question. Um, um, in that, look, I mean, on a large enough scale, it does have value. Like you're developing um, a relationship with your audience that elevates the value of your brand and your thought or the authenticity of what you're wanting to say, and then that can build trust, and that trust then can translate into sales when they have a touch point somewhere else, or it can generate into trust, in whatever service. Maybe it's in local government where they're trying to get people to use the library more, or whatever, or make or spend more time in event spaces and whatever.
Have you ever had to?
it's very intangible a lot of the time,
Yeah,
but
it
yeah,
is intangible. So
it's
have you ever had
yeah.
to produce tangible results? Like I created this
Oh,
video,
like
it got that many views, and
yeah,
therefore they had so many more
yeah,
subscriptions versus last year when they didn't
yeah,
have the video, because it's really hard to explain to
yeah. I mean,
someone
the main metric is like, well, views. And so if you have a high view count, that's often considered okay, great.
successful.
It's been a we've yeah, a lot of people have seen this. That means they've seen our brand, blah blah blah. They've got our message out. So high view count works. Um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't, I've never really had the pressure to do that because I kind of sit in the space of, I sit in this in between space between freelance videographer, content producer, freelance content producer, and an agency. I kind of do agency, kind of level production on a freelance kind of budget and time frame. And um, typically, I work with marketing departments. Typically, I work with people who it's their responsibility to follow the numbers, and they've outsourced to me to generate the
Okay.
content. So I kind of don't necessarily work in that uh, content management space. I work in the content production space. So I
Yeah,
work with them,
okay.
but I care about that. I think it's very important to sort of talk about that and to
Well,
work
it
with that.
sounds like whoever you're working with or for would be focusing on that. That's
Yeah,
their area,
yeah,
and then you're there
yeah,
to produce the content. Yeah, okay. I was wondering
yeah.
how that worked.
The cynical side of me would go, dare I say this, is that look, in many respects, especially working for larger corporations, I, I'm working. Ideally, your ideal client is someone who's spending other people's money. A client who's spending their own money is a lot harder to get them to spend. Obviously, it's really hard to generate the sort of the value where I guess that return on investment normally comes, or the conversation normally comes, is like, well, look, your competitors are doing this. They've got a really nice website with a nice landing video, and look at you. What do you got? Like, I mean, how what's the consumer going to think in between these two? You don't look
Oh, so it's just the
professional
industry
enough.
standard. Like,
This
what
is
are other
industry
people
standard, so
doing?
you
Yeah,
really ought to be
okay.
doing this in order to elevate your perception of value, so that people will go to the next level of the sales funnel, and so maybe they'll end up in your shopping cart, or they'll come to your event space, or whatever. And I'm thinking like winery, um, but in a corporate level, yeah, it's actually in large part. I think that there's another competitive, or there's another motivation. There's a corporate motivation, and then there's an employee motivation as well. And I actually think I'm addressing an employee motivation as well, and that I'm helping this individual um, look more successful within the organization by producing content with them, and so it elevates their career. And I honestly think that's one of the motivations
Oh, I
that
didn't think of
drive the
that.
sale. Yeah,
So it actually helps the person that you're collaborating with too.
correct. And that's how
Yeah.
I see it too. And I always make sure that ideally, I see it through my job is to make them look good within the organization first, and then the second, make the corporation or the organization look good second. That's actually how that's how I think that's how I think you should approach it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So speaking of corporations and organizations, compared to the few day jobs that you sound like you've worked, I call them day jobs because it's not working for yourself.
Mm.
How would you say working for yourself, being an entrepreneur, running your own business versus working for someone else, um, perhaps going to a place every day, how does that compare
Mm.
for you? What are the pros and cons of either or? And
I'll try not to name names. I Pros and cons. Well, look, I think the money. I'm yeah. Getting work in what I do and in my line of work, working for a company, it's probably honestly the best thing you can do. I think people, I know lots of people who have come up through their careers, who started out after me, who have now gone beyond me because they've actually done the corporate ladder thing. They've just, and the smart thing to do really is to change. Don't really have loyalty to a particular organization or company. Keep job hunting, change jobs every 2 or 3 years, and you will find yourself, rising the ranks. And before you know it, I'm working for them, and and so So there's plenty of reasons to suggest that I'm a fool for remaining self-employed this long, but it's a bit of a lifestyle thing for me, and I enjoy being able to work on my time in the hours that I like to work. I will put in 10-hour days when it's needed, but I don't need to start work until my body clock wants me to start work. Normally it's about 10 o'clock. So,
That's
uh,
awesome. You can
um,
cater it to how your body actually functions
that's right.
best.
That's right.
Yeah,
And if I'm crook and I'm not feeling so good, I'll do, smaller days. It just feel like, and in some ways you're burning you can't have burnout because you've got too much on your plate. In other ways you can actually manage your burnout. In other ways you can have a bit more flexibility. There's an old joke which is that being self-employed is great. It's you get to choose what 24 hours a day you work. And so
a friend of
you
mine's just
you
started her
work.
own business about 4 years ago. And it seems like that. She's constantly working. She's on the tools, or she's answering
Mm,
messages, or
yeah.
she's thinking about, product, or she's thinking about her plans for the next day, and it's just never ending. So, um, how do you create that boundary, I guess, between working 24/7 and actually having time?
It's taken a long time to try to quarantine my weekends, but I just sort of kind of, I mean, I try to do it. I'm pretty good at doing it. I'm pretty lucky. I don't work in the kind of the event space like weddings and stuff. I do not want to do weddings. I've never done weddings. No thanks. And therefore I'm not working weekends. And so I do have like typically, my weekends quarantined, which is good. And so
So
now that I've
because you've
got
been able to set your own hours, you've pretty much renovated your place, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean that's right. And so, look, and it's feast and famine when you're a freelance content producer. So, typically, when work's on, it's bloody on, and you feel like I liken it to be I'm in a work prison. I feel like I'm in what do you call it, a poor house or a workshop or whatever. And I'm just like I just got to get this project done, and it can be really really hard. I could be struggling with it. It's frustrating. And then there's this euphoric moment when it's finally come together and you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. How did I make this? Clients love it. Cool. Sent off. And then you got nothing on. And you got nothing on. Maybe you might have nothing on for a couple of weeks. And you're like, oh my God, I can like go and do, something for myself. And yeah, for me, that's been renovating this house nonstop forever. It's like I was very naive, thinking how quickly we'd be able to do this place, but it's like basically a whole body and spirit thing. But fortunately, it is one of my happy places to be listening to some music and and just smashing some tiles.
That's great. Well, I did see the
Yeah.
cabinet that you renovated, and that inspired me. So
Oh,
I
cool.
ended up
Good.
refreshing, I'll say. I won't say renovating because I didn't pull it apart and rebuild it. I just kind of
Yeah.
fixed it up a little. But ended up renovating my grandma's cabinet, which was, I think, probably from the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
love it. It's got the LED lighting in it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll see if I can show you the finished product. I think you've seen it, but yeah, so it's great that you can set your own hours in that respect, gives you time to actually do other things, and
Yeah. It's
but it would be
yeah.
hard, to make sure that you have enough of your own time.
Yeah, it wasn't like, I mean, it's sort of like that now. I'm kind of, I'm now 11, 12 years into this. And yeah, there it
There
is.
you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Gorgeous.
That took me like 4.5 months to do, which
Did you send it back
sounds
or you
yeah, I sounded it right back.
right
Yeah,
back? What,
yeah.
like manually send it back? Did you strip it with and then
No,
sand?
I manually sanded it all
You
back.
crazy kid.
Yeah, so that's why it took me so long.
Oh my God. You should have stripped it first, then sanded it.
No, I was scared to strip it because it was enamel paint and I didn't want it to bubble and make it worse. So I just sanded it all
Oh,
off. Yeah.
oh my
But so
God.
just so
Yeah.
you inspired me to do that
I
project
can't believe
because I saw
that's
yours and I liked it and I thought, well, can be done.
I had no idea that I inspired you to do that. That's quite lovely, actually. Yeah,
So would you
yeah.
still prefer working for yourself versus working for someone else, even though it can be hard to manage time and it can be
Yeah, I
hard
mean, I
to.
recently did a bit of I did a contract for someone else, and I really did remind me of why I like working for myself. It's I like being my own boss, and sometimes it's hard to be motivated, but I'm motivated by not letting people down, and so and now that's even a deeper level. So I don't like letting my clients down, but now I don't want to let my family down. And recently had lucky enough to have uh, a son born this last year, um, and it's just another reason to not another motivation. But and of course the other really amazing thing that's happened is that I've been very great, like very lucky to be involved in my son's life too a lot because of the
Yeah,
fact that I
that's
work from home,
awesome.
um, and I feel like I feel like it's one of the greatest gifts, um, to be there for him, as much as I've been able to do it. It's just amazing. I feel very grateful for that, and so I personally feel like the cost um, of not necessarily earning as much as I could. Because the hardest thing about being freelance is like, how do you make a consistent amount of work across a year? You can't. It's going to come in spits and spurts. It's so hard when you're
Yeah.
working uh, just deeply on a project. You don't have the bandwidth to be thinking about generating leads at the same time. Like you've got this massive, all-consuming headache of a problem. You're thinking about it all day long. You're basically in your own little cave. You might be eating dinner with your wife and she's trying to talk to you and you're editing in your head, right? You're like you can't you're like you're not there. And so it's just and it's because of that you can't it's really hard to even out the work. And so the reality is that that's why I have it's either on and it's off, it's on and off. And I've learned to enjoy that though, because it
That's
means that
good that you've learnt to
yeah
enjoy it.
yeah
Yeah.
because it means that I can pick up other projects. And I think that the best antidote to being stuck at a computer screen, which I wouldn't naturally like I don't naturally like looking at a computer screen. I don't naturally I never thought I was going to be in the space where I'm just sitting behind a computer when I was young. Um, but yeah, that's 80% of my job now. And that's 80% of everyone's job
Yeah.
or more. But yeah, the best antidote to that is actually going outside and going in the shed and cutting some wood and putting some nails together, and almost like I'm in kindy again, like with a hammer and some nails. I'm like, it's just great. Like, just give me something to bang. I just want to drill something, and
Oh, I can
yeah,
relate to that. I like
yeah,
banging things too.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I don't know.
So, your
Answered your
garden is
question.
also lovely. I like
Oh,
a lot of the plants that you have in there. I want to get some of those. Um, have you got any veggies
thanks.
growing? You got your veggie garden happening?
We've been yeah, we've got a veggie garden. We're probably due for a renewal of planting. We're not the best green thumbs, um, but we do have some. We have we have the herbs that we care about that continually go. We've got some chilies popping up at the moment, which is nice. But we don't eat tomatoes in this house. Neither my wife and I like tomatoes. We're not tomato people.
Oh,
And
note to self.
yeah, no, not a fan of tomatoes. So they look really good when you grow them, but we don't grow them. Haven't had any luck with strawberries; they always die. Um,
I
we've got some
cannot
fruit
get mine to
trees.
fruit.
We've got fruit
Like,
trees though, and they produced. We got 7 peaches this year, and they were.
oh, yum. White
So,
or yellow
it must have
peaches?
been the yellow peaches. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
I love the
Oh,
white ones.
yeah. What's the difference?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, one's yellow inside, one's white inside.
Oh,
That's the only difference,
no, these
really.
were yellow inside. Oh, they were gorgeous peaches. I don't know whether the white one. I don't know.
Oh,
I
that's
didn't know.
exciting.
I thought, I thought we all bled red on the inside. I didn't realize different flavors. Maybe we all taste differently. I didn't know that. Uh, yeah,
All right. Well, I agree. A good antidote to getting away from a screen is to go outside.
yeah,
There's lots of studies to show that the negative ions outside help you to decompress and they settle your nervous system, and
yeah,
nature is good therapy.
yeah. I believe in that. I believe in earthing. I don't wear shoes in summer. which means this summer I've been stung on the bottom of my foot by a bee twice, twice in one
Oh,
summer. How does that happen?
ouch.
But yeah, but definitely a big believer in earthing, and grounding. And I mean, how good do you feel when you go swim in the ocean? You know,
Oh, I
um,
love the ocean. I actually love being in bodies of water, full stop. Like
yeah,
baths, oceans, pools, just
yeah,
put me in there, happy as Larry. Yeah,
yeah,
I love water.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you miss being far from the beach? Because I noticed since I moved
Mm.
to Gawler, it's a bit of a trip.
Yeah, so I mean, what is it? It's like 40 minutes to Semaphore, which has always been my favorite beach anyway. And that's our local.
I mean, not that
Not
the Gawler
really.
River really has water in it.
Yeah.
Technically, there's a river here, but
We got a public pool here, which we've been to, and it's kind of cool. Except, uh, it's like it felt like as I mean, before our child was born, we went there and we're like, oh, this is like a family thing. I feel kind of a bit weird just being a childless man. Like I'm like, should someone be like monitoring me just in case I'm a
oh,
weirdo? Now that we've got a boy, I'm like, okay, cool, we can go there now.
now
And
you
it's not
can
gonna be weird.
go.
Um, no, and actually, it pays to have friends with pools, which I do have. And yeah, look, I don't know. Like, when I was younger, we there was a period of time where we did live in Semaphore. I lived there with my mum, and like in a really cool period of my time in my life between 10 and 11. And we actually lived on the Esplanade. I got to experience that life of living on the beach, and it is kind of cool. It's kind of nice. It's a nice thing. And it's the equivalent of living to nature. But if I had to choose between like trees or the beach, right? If I had to choose between the hills or the beach, I'd choose the hills. I'm more of a tree change kind of guy. I like
We got lots of
um,
trees around here, so
that's
that's
right. And
good.
so I find
Yeah.
the proximity of the Barossa Valley, way more interesting to me than the proximity to a beach.
Hmm.
You know, so yeah, I'm definitely in terms of my ideal weekend is it's like it's sort of a frolic through uh, maybe a cellar door art gallery, a glass of wine, maybe a good book, and excellent coffee, a few secondhand stores, maybe a secondhand bookshop.
That also sounds
That's
like your
that's kind of my
wife's
day.
perfect weekend, actually.
It is, yeah. We're quite matched in that regard. We have,
She
unfortunately, we
loves
have,
literature and she's the curator of the local art gallery, I understand.
yeah, yeah. Fortunately, we share a similar aesthetic appreciation. So yeah, no, I'm very proud of her, and she's an amazing influence on me too in that respect. I think she's definitely a bit more cultured than I am, and but been a great influence on my life for the last 11 years or something. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so coming to the last question, unless there's anything else you'd like to share today.
I you I don't know. I'm just riding the wave. I've never been in a podcast.
Oh,
I
really?
have had long-winded conversations, but recording it is like interesting.
I'm very
Like
privileged to be your first podcast. Thank you.
oh, thank you. Well, no, thank you. Mm.
All right, so I asked this question to everyone.
Yeah.
What do you think makes you uniquely you?
Well, my cynical self would say, oh, look, I'm not unique. Pretty ordinary, actually. I think I'm about as ordinary as we all are. Um, um, I don't, there are certain things, oh God, how do I answer that? I really don't think I'm that unique. And I'm not really interested in trying to be, a brand or something like that. So I don't know. It's what you're
Would
asking
you
me to.
say it's your tenacity because you've been self-employed for quite a while and you need to be quite resilient and motivated to do that type of thing?
Yeah, but what
Or
you're trying to do, what you're asking me to do is sorry. What you're asking me to do is to self compliment, and it's very hard for me to
well, not
do.
necessarily, because I would say
Um,
what makes me uniquely
I
me
think
is
I
my
think
curiosity,
I
right?
think I
And that's not always a good thing. So you can say that's a compliment, or you can say that's an
mm,
observation that some people might find really annoying because I asked too many questions. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you promoting yourself or you complimenting
Okay, all
yourself.
right, okay.
What do you think is unique about you that makes you Alex? It could be
I
lots of different
think
things.
on that level of on that level of analysis that you said, which is like a what's my character trait,
Yes, there we go.
which perhaps, yeah, which has perhaps been, which has shaped my career probably and shaped the way I've approached life, is that I have got this naive idea about naive confidence, um, which has gotten me into situations that I then have to figure out how to get myself out of. And that can be socially in conversation. I'm always getting myself into trouble socially. But I've always been the friend that's been able to break the ice and, talk to strangers. I've always been able to kind of, you know, um, you know, me and a mate will go into a club or something back and before long we were hanging out with a group of 20 people and we're all getting along fine. And because uh, I've always had that ability to sort of approach strangers and build rapport really quickly. And that has been a really critical component of the success of my business,
Yeah,
100%.
sounds like it.
And,
It's all
and
relationship based.
that's right.
So that
Because
would be what makes you unique, is your ability to build rapport so quickly.
yeah, but I also, on the same hand, because of the duality of things, can also make enemies really quickly too, from with the exact same approach. So,
I'm like
it's
that
a great
too.
way of filtering out the people who I need to have in my life, right? Like
Yeah.
it filters out the people in my life,
It's like coriander, it's
and yeah, I like to only
polarizing.
collect, yeah, 100%. I'm like coriander for sure.
Coriander,
Yeah,
yeah. Yep, you
yeah,
either like it or don't like it. I found
100%.
that in my life too, so I can relate, Alex. It's okay. Like you
Yeah,
said,
that's
it
cool.
just weeds out the people that don't need to be there, doesn't it?
That's right. And look, it's not a case of like, I'm an asshole, and that's just the way I am, and people can deal with it. I'm just misunderstood. I actually like everyone, but I can challenge people's views and their ideas, and not in a way to upset, but in a way to understand. But it's just something that I do. I kind of have this sort of um, contrarian streak in me, which is just, because it comes from curiosity, like you said, it just comes from um, I think life's more interesting. There's nothing I hate more than small talk. That's my problem. I hate small talk. I want to get to the deep talk as quickly as possible, but some people aren't ready for that. So, what do you do?
Well, I'm always here for it,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I can appreciate it.
yeah.
All
Same,
right. Well, thank
same.
you so much for diving right in today. No small talk required. We just had a good chat about your business and your life, and it was great. So thank you so much for coming on for a chat.
It's an absolute privilege. The only other time you get to talk about yourself in this way is when you see a psychologist or a job interview. So thank you very much.
No worries.